Happy Monday, everyone. My apologies for being a couple of minutes late here, but it had some technical issues with the computer. A few technical issues. And I am also in my office library here today because our whole house is shaking with the construction going out in front of my studio. So here we are. Let's get right to it because I have some important discussion planned for today regarding framing your paintings. And I hope my computer is working because it just keeps freezing up on me. There we are. I think I'm here. Technical day. To frame paintings is a big decision. It is a big expense. And I posted yesterday a photograph of my studio gallery from a few years back when I had framed all the paintings on my studio wall, and it looked lovely. I was so surprised to see it because right now I normally don't frame my paintings. I do, however, paint the edges. I will get to that in a moment. But if you decide to frame your canvases after you finish painting them, there are a number of things to consider, and there are different types of frames. The frame that is on Keith's painting right behind my head here is a plein air type frame, and you can get that. There's no linen liner. Let me see if I can aim this up. Oh yes, you see. There we go. That is framed with no linen liner. Now, the frames, the classic gallery frame is kind of, I'm a big fan of the gallery frame, to be honest with you, because I love antiques and I love things to look very classic. And the gallery frame has got usually a 2 or 3 inch linen liner. It is not a mat, it is a liner made of pure linen. The big downfall for having a classic gallery linen liner is that they can mark very easily. They are expensive. And so you really have to make sure that it is what you want, because they are not easy to care for. You do not want to ever touch them because even with the oil from your fingertips can mark it very easily. So make that investment with caution. A lot of these plein air frames are a lot less expensive and they look really nice. And so I often will go for a plein air frame. Plein air frames basically mean no mat, no liner. And if you do a liner or a mat, this also applies to watercolor matting. You do not want the liner or the mat to be the same width or depth as the frame. You want a small frame wide liner or a big frame narrow liner. So always keep that in mind as well. Those are very important points. Now, plein air frames I've mentioned, gallery frames I've mentioned, and you can also get a shadow box frame. And those are a rather inexpensive type of frame and makes the painting look very nice. The thing about a shadow box frame is you have to paint the edges of your canvas because they will show. The canvas is mounted from the back and there is a space between the shadow box and your canvas, and it's kind of gives a really interesting depth to the painting. It finishes it. It makes it look really good. You must paint the edges. They are inexpensive form of framing. So that is your third option. And then of course you can choose to not frame your canvases as well. And if that's the case, make sure you do paint the edges of your canvas, because if you leave them with the white canvas showing, your painting is going to look unfinished. It's like just as important as framing or signing your canvas. You have to finish it. It has to look professional. Even if you're an amateur, you want to have that finished look to your painting. So 4 options for your canvases. Now, if you're also doing a oil painting on a canvas board or a wood panel, that's a whole other thing, because in order to display it, you need to frame it. So some people choose the canvas boards instead of a canvas because it is slightly cheaper. But if you do a fabulous painting on that canvas board, then you have to consider the cost of a frame. So sometimes it is much more economical to paint on an actual canvas, and there are different qualities of canvas, but I do not recommend canvas boards because you never know when you are going to paint your masterpiece. Yeah, it can happen when you least expect it. So always expect the best painting, but know that you might be tossing it at the same time. There are those lines. So those are a whole number of things to consider. Now you can also, oops, there we go. This painting right there was done by my friend Gary Wheatcroft, and I just went to Winners and bought a frame from Winners, which had a lovely mat. And the thing about, he did an acrylic painting on paper. So you can see how the darker mat is not the same thickness or depth as the white mat. And then it's got a small gold frame. The number one thing to consider when framing oil paints, acrylics, or watercolors is that you do not, on any circumstance, want the frame to take away from the painting. The important thing is the painting. And so when you are, for example, framing a watercolor, there is a variety of colored mats that you can put around your watercolor, and be extremely cautious about choosing a colored mat, because a lot of people will pick a mat that will match a specific color that's in the painting, and I do not recommend this. And the reason for that is because if you pick out a nice colored green mat, for example, to match the trees that are in the painting, then the trees are going to be what stands out in the painting. Perhaps you don't want the trees to be your focal point. You don't want your eye to be drawn to one specific spot in the painting if that is not your focal point. And even if it is your focal point, you want the painting to stand on its own, not be changed because of what is going on in the frame. The frame should just be an accent. It should not in any way take away from the painting. The painting should be what you are looking at, not the frame. So keep those points in mind. And I think that is about all we need to really discuss today on framing. I hope this has given you some things to think about. And of course, like I said, you don't have to do a frame. There's always that option to just leave it unframed. And that looks great on a wall. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is anything wrong with the, canvas. The edges, as long as those edges are painted, you've got it made, and that can stand well alone. And then of course, you don't have to worry about the frame detracting from your painting. And the other thing you can think about doing is you can go to garage sales, thrift stores, buy old paintings at the thrift store, and take the canvas out and then use the frames as well. So there are a lot of options. I am a big believer in doing what feels right for you. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, and send me some photos of some of your paintings and some of the things that you framed. And I'd love to get your feedback on this. Okay, I hope that was a good, helpful tip. And I hope you're all painting. And one other thing I want to quickly just say is that we've got a lot of new members in our Caprice Fine Artist community. And I want to say a big welcome to everyone that is joining us. And I do hope you feel comfortable sharing what you're working on. If you're not an artist, please let us know what you're looking for, what you like, what kind of art you like, what you want to see from the group. Welcome. I look forward to hearing from all of you. Okay, have a great week, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And please keep posting, please keep following. let me know what you want me to talk about next week. And if you have any questions, drop me a note. Okay, have a good week, everyone. Bye for now.